Hello my YouTube friends, I am Mindy and I'm happy to have you all back here today. The subject of today is introverted intuition for INTJs and INFJs versus introverted intuition for ISFPs and ISTPs. The reason why I wanted to make this video is because I came across some YouTube videos. This video made by an ISFP with very good intentions, where this person was saying certain things about NI that I just don't agree with. That made me think like, okay, this cannot be possible. I am an ENFP, like my direct access is NE, and I'm very familiar. I do feel like I can almost grasp and touch the NI of my INFJs and INTJs, people in my surroundings and in my life. There is so much misconception and actually like lack of understanding of depth of perspective of what is it like to be a dominant intuitive or a dom intuitive versus what is it like to have intuition as an auxiliary or as a tertiary function. NI for INTJ and INFJ is just the core of who they are, and that is the same for every other type. For me as an ENFP, being extroverted intuition my dominant function, that means that that's what I rely on the most. That's what my brain uses to dive in the world and to process everything around me. And the same goes for INTJ and INFJ then. So that means that these people are very visionary. They have this brother sort of vision where they can look at the possibilities, but then they can narrow and they can find what is the best possibility, what's the best option I can take, what's the best outcome I can get through the best option. So they can look at the whole brother big picture. It's a big picture function, and based on that they can say, okay, this is how it can turn out. If I do that, this is the best decision I can take, and this is what they do best. Just as for the ENFP, what they do best is to come up with a brainstorm and create, and you don't try, that's what you just do. Like that's just how it like naturally happens. So that's the same for introverted intuitives dominant INFJ and INTJ. So then the second function will help them to, of course, navigate life in different ways and to make decisions in different ways. The name is auxiliary, and that is the way of development. Whether you use it more or less means that you are more developed or less developed. Let's talk clearly here, because some people say like, yeah, you're an INTJ, so that means that you're doing all the time introverted intuition and extroverted thinking. Well, ideally, yes. Ideally, that's the best way, that's the best method for you to make decisions. But sometimes people can just skip the second function and go directly to the third function, which is a more of a sloppy function. We know it, but we don't, what's the word for it? They say we don't dominate it, kind of. And the same goes for the INFJ. But it's still, they have these two people have this very broad kind of vision of the picture. They're future oriented. And the best of, what you can say about the dominant of every function is that you can get the best results when you use your dominant and when you're being used by the auxiliary, okay? That's not the same that happens with the ISFP and the ISTP. The ISFP and ISTP, they both have introverted intuition on the third place. So that means that they will first rely on their first function. For ISFPs being introverted feeling, that's their nature, very core values oriented, I know what I want and I'm gonna go and do it, because they are very tied up with the extroverted sensorial world. It's like, what do I have available to do this happen? What are my resources? But they're not gonna try and find like the ENFP would do, or the INFP would do, and try to brainstorm what is the, no, they will go and say like, okay, what are my real resources around me? How can I do this desire I have to come into fruition? And after that, once they've done that, ideally, as I said, if you use the second function, then you would access the third function as an ISFP, which is like, okay, I have this desire or this knowing, these are my resources, I'm gonna focus my attention here and I'm gonna just put my 100% there. And the same goes to the ISTP in a different sort of process, you can call it, because the first function is a logical function. So they're going to be tied up to reasoning and trying to look at where are the gaps of this idea, or how can I make the best decision by using this reasoning, this introverted logical process. And then they will go with the extroverted sensing, saying like, what are my resources? How can I do it? And then they will go down and narrow down and just look at what I'm doing and focus there. It's not the same as how the INTJ and INFJ uses it, because they, like, imagine, it's like I have of the 100% of something, of this, let's call it, this is 100% of the introverted intuition. The INFJ and the INTJ uses the 100%, which means visionary, future oriented, which means I can predict pretty accurate results, which means I can narrow down, you know, there are many more categories. I can see the patterns, I can connect the patterns, all of that. For the ISFPs and ISTP of this whole 100%, they will get something like this down there. So I only have access to maybe 1/3 or not even of what an introverted intuition is. And that would mean like they can use it, yes, so they can think of in terms of some abstraction, they could do it, but it's not what they normally do. And the INTJ is not even trying. The INFJ, they're not trying to be intuitive. They're not trying to think deeper. They just do it because that's who they are. And the ISFP, who they are in the other very core, is like more down to earth people who has deep knowing, like they know what they want and then they put hands on and they do the thing. But they use the introverted intuition in order to make this first function, so their deep desire come into fruition, and this hands-on desire that they have, the extroverted sensing, to put it into action. The ISTP, they also use introverted intuition as the third function. So my point here is like this ISFP person on this video is saying like, yeah, NI dominance, they can focus, but they come up with this kind of prediction of the future and they don't take into consideration their sensorial, the extroverted sensing, because they don't have it. So they kind of lacking of that they're not that good. I just felt very annoyed because I was like, no, this is like INTJs and INFJs, this is the best quality. You cannot say that they're doing it wrong just because his experience as an ISFP is that introverted intuition is sloppy, because that's sloppy for him because he's not a dominant. And that's the same I want to say to every ISFP or ISTP or any other personality that can be also looking at my video now. If you look at your third function, you can never compare to how is that like for yourself versus how is that like for a dominant. For instance, my third function is extroverted thinking, and I do have a sense of it, you know. I do have a sense of, okay, I choose always for what's the more practical, you know, and I would just think like, okay, I want to do that, and I will go and do. But I know that I cannot do that optimal way as, for instance, an ENTJ would do. And I've seen them doing things, and I grew up with an ENTJ sister next to me, and I know how that's like, and I know that that's not me. But not for that I can say like, oh no, it's so extroverted thinking is imagine if I would say extroverted thinking is like a very sloppy function because you just jump into things without thinking. No, that's just me because I'm an ENFP. So that's the same for every other personality type. So to grab this app, introverted intuition, yes, it is the function that sees the big picture, that looked into patterns, and that can recognize what is the main pattern, what's the most important pattern, and how can I get the best result using that. How can I reach for that goal? And they just see the clear picture. This is what I have to do based on all of these patterns I can see, and they would narrow down and say like, okay, put hands on using their second function or even third function, depending on which loop they're using. This way they would get the best results, because that's how it works. That's the beauty of MBTI. You use your own resources to make the best decisions, or to navigate the world. Whenever you know that you're a dominant introverted intuitive, then you know that that is your best way, the best tools you have in your life in order to fulfill your destiny, to make your dreams come true. You know, it's not possible that if you're an INFJ or an INTJ and you're thinking, okay, I see that other people it's more hands-on driven in the practical world and I should do that, because no, that's what works for the dominant extroverted sensors, not for them. So now for the ISFP, yes, guys, and ISTPs, you're quite intuitive. I talk with ISFPs and ISTPs, and there is some sense of, as an extroverted, intuitive, dominant myself, I can see like there is glimpses of it, you know, but it's not the same than for the other ones, that they have their own strengths. There is nobody who's better or who's worse, you know. So the strengths of the sensors is like using their sensorial qualities as extroverted sensing or introverted sensing. In the case of ISTP and ISFPs, is extroverted sensing as auxiliary, but still they have their own dominant, which is the very logical ISTP, who can look at what can go wrong. Let's break it down and then let's analyze and let's look at all of the gaps and holes I'm missing, you know. That's great. And you have to use that, you know. And the same works for ISFP and their introverted feelings. So it is different. You don't have access when you're a tertiary to the full function, and you use it, ISFPs and ISTPs, you use it to a certain degree, but you cannot use it to the fullest degree that the INFJ and the INTJ can do. But all good, there is nothing wrong. You have your own strengths, and the INFJs and INTJs have also their own strengths. All right, so this is all. My God, I got a bit too much energy on this video, but I'm enjoying it. I hope you're enjoying it too. Remember that you can treat me to coffee, so please go to my coffee page. The link is below, and from now on I have a Patreon page as well, so I would like to see you there supporting my work, and you will also get extra content from me. Subscribe please and like my video, and see you next time. Bye.